Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chakudash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us His truth. And as always, much peace, love, and salutation to the elect of the nation of Israel that's pushing this word with all truth and sincerity. To you all, I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. And what I want to do today is do a lesson based upon a speech that President Vladimir Putin had. Pretty much, like as you see here, this is from rtnews.com. It says the old world is over. And when he mentions the old world, what is Vladimir Putin talking about? That's why you hear something called the New World Order, or the NWO. You see, so the old world is over, which is pretty much being operated by the West. All right, which the West, when I say that, I'm talking about Babylon the Great, which is known in the scriptures. All right, which is America. Okay, but it has key words as Babylon the Great, or rather say key names. It's Babylon the Great, Egypt, Syria. Okay, we call it Rome 2.0, Sodom and Gomorrah. America is pretty much a amalgamation of all these various different kingdoms combined into one. You see? So, and also too, the Lord is using Russia as a key piece in prophecy. All right, to destroy Babylon the Great, as we read in various different prophecies, like, for example, in Jeremiah 49, Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, Isaiah 13, Revelation 20, it mentions how, matter of fact, let's pull it real quick and just jump straight to the point, okay? It's the book of Revelation. Get to it real quick here. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 20. And we'll just jump straight to the point. The Revelation chapter 20, verse 7, it says, And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Now, this 1,000-year period is talking about roughly from the time of 325 AD. All right, when Constantine the Great, which was an Israelite, who pretty much instituted paganistic customs to what you know today as Christianity, really goes into paganistic ideology. Paganistic customs, if you will. All right, but at that time you had Jake that was ruling the Roman Empire. Okay, which, like I said, Constantine was a Jake. He was an Israelite that was going off, but Esau was pretty much put down at that point. Okay, so it says, and when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, which 1,000 years from that point goes into the beginning of the Renaissance period, which started at the late 1300s, early 1400s. All right, where you had Renaissance art, Renaissance, pretty much the health Renaissance, where Esau began to plaster up his images all over the place. Okay. It says, and shall go, and also too, Christopher Columbus in 1492, Christopher Columbus came on the scene and came to the Americas, in North, Central, and South America, ultimately to fulfill prophecy. You see, he was a big part of Satan being loose out of his prison as well too. Okay, that's why he had Hebrew translators on the ship with him, because he knew exactly who was over here and what he was coming to do. Okay, it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. Okay, so Esau would be loosed to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, pretty much all the nations, with his wine and Babylon the Great's philosophies. As the scripture says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, who made all the nations drunk. Right? And shall go out to deceive. Man, let's get this word deceive real quick here. Okay, that word deceive in the Greek is planao, in Revelation 20 and 7. Or 20 and 8, excuse me. Okay, Revelation chapter 20, verse 8, planao. It says metaphorically to lead away from the truth, to lead into error, You see, to lead into error. And these nations have been led into error, chiefly starting with the whore that rides upon the beast. You see? So with these different, laws and rules and regulations, the dollar, all these different things that America pushes, because America's that whore that rides upon the beast, these nations have been deceived. They've been made drunken. They've been led into error, which in turn is going to cause all these different various nations to gather themselves together against Babylon the Great, according to biblical prophecy, right? It says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, which Gog and Magog is talking about Russia. Okay, when you look at an ancient map of Gog and Magog, okay, that's in the region of where Russia is today. That's where you also see about the Medes. When you read about that in like, for example, Isaiah the 13th chapter, it talks about the Medes. That's actually talking about Russia, because the Medes, all right, in their kingdom is where the land of Russia resides. If you look at an ancient map, it's where the land of Russia resides today. It says Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, okay, to war, World War III. You see, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And we'll pull Ezekiel 38 here in a minute. You see, because that's what that's the plans of the Lord for Babylon the Great to be destroyed. But it says to to deceive the nations and to gather together Gog and Magog for battle. That's why you've been seeing Russia more and more prevalent in the news. You see, because ultimately war is being stirred up, which is prophesied in the scriptures to happen. You see, so let's go back to this article. It says the old world is over. Key takeaways from Putin's first major speech since Russia's military offensive in Ukraine. Russian leader has buried the old world order. The old world order. Look at that. He's buried the old world order and outlined his view on Russia's and the world's future in a key address. Yeah, there ain't gonna be no future for these Edomites, man. It's not as if, the powerhouse and the power structure of Babylon the Great is gonna fall. And then next you're gonna have Russia come up in the power, and Russia's gonna be the new head honcho on the planet Earth. No. Okay, after Babylon the Great falls, according to biblical prophecy, what's gonna happen is that Yahushua, matter of fact, let's just pull it for edification purposes. Okay, because you ain't gonna have no more Edomites that's gonna rule after this. Matter of fact, before we get Daniel, let's get 2 Ezra 6. Okay. Because it's still Edomites over there. It's still Edomites over there in Russia. It's just the Lord is going to use the Edomites over there in Russia, all right, to implement judgment upon the great whore, man. You see, because the Lord is in control at the end of the day. Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is the one that mustereth the host of the battle. That's why he's known as Yahweh of hosts, the Lord of armies, Yahweh of armies. You see? Okay, this is 2 Ezra chapter 6, verse 9. Okay, it says, for Esau is the end of the world. You see, in this world here is talking about the end of an age. So Esau is the end of the world, this current world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. You see, so what's coming next is that whenever Babylon the Great falls, who's going to rule next is Jacob, and it's going to be headed underneath Yahushua, all right, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and the 144,000. Okay, and then the rest of the nation of Israel is going to follow in line underneath that. Okay, that's when you read about Isaiah 2. Israel is going to be the chief nation on the planet Earth. Not no goddamn Russians or Moab, Ham, Elam, Ishmael. No. According to biblical prophecy, it's going to be the Israelites. Okay, underneath Yahushua. All right. Let's grab one more prophecy. Let's get Daniel 2 and 44. Let me actually start up at verse 42. Because when you read Daniel the 2nd chapter, it goes into how Daniel seen a vision of a great image of Nebuchadnezzar. It was a statue, and it was a head of gold. Then you had the breast area and the shoulders of silver, excuse me. And then you had the loins area of brass. You had the legs that were of iron, and then the feet that were iron mixed with miry clay, which the feet of the image represents pretty much the beast system of the Roman Empire coming back up again, which is spearheaded by America, backed by NATO and the EU, which is the beast. Okay? So when you read it, verse 41, it says, and whereas thou sawest that the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, part of potter's clay and iron, it's a mixture, so it's going to be partly strong and partly weak. Okay? The kingdom shall be divided. Okay? And if you can't see that America is divided at the core right now, then you're just not paying attention. It's all kinds of divisions within this place. It says, and also too, there's divisions between the beast system as well too. Between these different EU nations and NATO nations and America, there's a division between one another. And as we already know, the scripture says, Yahweh Shah said, a kingdom divided against itself can't stand. It says, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay. So the strength of the iron goes into what? Its military might. You see? And that's what really gives the beast system its power, is its military as well as its financial sector. You see, everything pretty much operated off of debt and backed by the US dollar, which in order to buy oil and move oil, that's why it's called the petrodollar. You need the United States dollar to get oil, and everything needs oil. Everything is moved by oil. You see? It says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. You see that? And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with the miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. You see, they're going to have all these different alliances and form these different coalitions, you know, all these different deals. The treaty of, look up the Treaty of Rome, for example. It says, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. They're not going to cleave with one another. Eventually, it's going to be broken. That's when you read in Revelation, it talks about how the 10 horns would pretty much line up with the beast for a particular time in the season, for lack of better words. Verse 44 is a point. And as in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom. So in the days of these kings, which we just broke down, these different NATO and EU nations gathering themselves together in league with the beast, in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. See? The kingdom of Yasha Allah is gonna stand forever. Okay? Just like Elder Lahab, you know, said that, you know, the Edomites are gonna rise up again in the kingdom and try and take us down for. No, that's not gonna happen. That's not according to biblical prophecy. Okay, that's not according to the scriptures. Right? It says it shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, right? But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. And like I said, it's going to be spearheaded by Yahweh Shai. Okay, Yahweh Shai coming back and cracking the clouds and destroying this system as we know it. Right? So let's read this. It says, I don't have anything written. I'm just, you know, as Yahweh Bashem Shai feeds me with precepts, you know, I'll bring them out. It says, new centers of power have emerged. The unipolar world order isn't coming back. Now, what is the unipolar world order? What does that mean? That word unipolar, when you get the definition of it, having or relating to a single pole or kind of polarity. So the unipolar world order is pretty much talking about a world order, a world system backed pretty much and controlled by the West. You see? That's why if any other nation typically on the planet Earth doesn't follow after what the West says, what happens is that they bring their military in and they pretty much defracture that nation and make them comply to their laws, rules, and regulations. Right? So it says that the unipolar world order isn't coming back. It says, and the colonial way of thinking has failed. Russian President Vladimir Putin told the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, SPIEF, on Friday in what the Kremlin described as an extremely important speech. 1, the old world order is gone with the wind. And this clearly shows you that all of these nations are in cahoots with the NWO. All of these nations are in cahoots with the pretty much the crumbling of this old world system and the bringing in and the ushering in of a new one. You see, it says when the U.S. declared victory in the Cold War, Americans designated themselves the messengers of God on earth. You see, God bless America, one nation under God. You see, the messengers, it says the Americans designated themselves, pretty much Edomites, the messengers of God on earth. You see, if you don't follow after these ways, laws, rules, and regulations, you're deemed as a savage. That's why you got something called the doctrine of discovery. Even though that was way before the Cold War, but you get the point of what I'm saying. You see, it says with interest that should be considered sacred and no obligations. Putin told the audience at SPIEF. It says new centers of power have since emerged and have the right to protect their own systems, economic models, and sovereignty. Let's read that again. New centers of power have since emerged and have the right to protect their own systems, economic models, and sovereignty. And that's the scripture saying what? Let the weak say I'm strong. Let's get that. Joel the 3rd chapter, the 10th verse. Okay, this is Joel chapter 3, verse 10. Actually, we'll start at verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. And this word Gentiles here is talking about the actual Gentiles, okay, the actual heathen. It says, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let all the men of war draw near. Because there's going to be a great slaughter in the valley of Yahweh-Shaphat, the valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay, let them come up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. You see, all these smaller nations, these smaller countries who so-called couldn't really come up to America and say particular things to America and pretty much not buck up against the system. Now they're bucking up against the system. Let the weak say, I am strong. You see that? Let the weak say, I'm strong. And the weak is saying that they're strong now by way of them making different bilateral deals with stronger countries, for example, like China, Russia, you see, India. That's why you have something called what? The BRICS nations, it's an acronym, which is short for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These different alliances who are teaming up with Russia. And Russia's going back into that USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic spirit. That's why Russia's been talking about how now what they got a missile that can wipe out four of their missiles can wipe out America, because the Lord is gathering them together for battle. You see, let the weak say I'm strong. Okay, the scripture says that that Gog and Magog will be a guard unto these smaller nations. Okay, so continuing on in the article, it says these quote unquote truly revolutionary tectonic changes in geopolitics, the global economy, changes to the global economy, the MOTB, which is the C to the H to the I to the P, the global economy, in the technological sphere. That's why you have something called the World Economic Forum in the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is going to be based upon information. You see, information is now the new oil. The technological sphere and the entire system of international relations are fundamental, pivotal, and inexorable, Putin said. Continuing on, it says, I'll turn right here at the next street. I think it's the next one. Shalaki, I'm just trying to figure out. It's the next one. It says, and it is a mistake to suggest that one can wait out the times of turbulent change and that things will return to normal. You see, things aren't going to return to normal, man. Everybody thinks that things are going to return back to normal. Everything's going to be good. No, you're not going to see gas prices just decline. You may see it decline maybe a cent. You may see a decline of a couple cents from $4.85 or $5.19, but it's not going to go back down to $2 a gallon or $1.50 a gallon or what. No, things aren't going back to normal. That's why you see these different farmlands being burned up. You see these different, all this cattle just randomly, just so-called mysteriously just dying. That's why you're seeing all these different things. And it's the Lord working on the elites to do these different things, man, because they want to try to implement their NWO system. It is a mistake to suggest that one can wait out the times of turbulent change and that things will return to normal, that everything will be as it was. It will not. You see, it's not going to go back to normal here. And he's openly telling you. And Putin is an insider, man. Okay, don't think for 1 minute that Putin is just the guy rising up, you know what I'm saying, with his own agenda, and he's just, you know, going to be dead set on destroying the so-called elite of the West and then trying to save everybody. No, the scripture says that he's going to put an evil thought in their minds. Ain't going to give a goddamn about the people over here in America, man, when he shoot these missiles, man. Number 2, anti-Russian sanctions backfired on the West. When the U.S. and its allies launched a campaign to cancel Russia over the conflict in Ukraine, they hoped to crash and undermine the Russian economy and society. And we read that in Revelation, the 20th chapter. It says what? To deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle. So when you hear about Ukraine, all you hear is Russia this, Russia that, Russia. Russia's the reason why the gas is so high. Russia's the reason as to why there could be a famine. Russia's the reason why inflation's going on. Russia's the reason why food prices are increasing. Russia. You see? It says the sanctions, and the sanction pretty much is whenever you cut a nation off from pretty much being able to move their money, in a sense, for lack of better words. It's more than that, but I'm just giving you just a very, very brief synopsis of it. Like, you got the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlements, as well as the SWIFT banking system, which all these different nations are tied to, which is really operated and backed by the West. Okay? It says the sanctions have instead boomeranged on their creators. And boomerang is what is a boomerang? You throw it, and what does it do? It comes back to you. It says the sanctions have instead boomeranged on their creators, aggravating social and economic problems. You see, social and economic problems. You see, now everybody that voted for Biden, which is a lot of you jakes, are now mad. Now y'all want Trump back in office. You see, but now look what you done created. It says aggravated social and economic problems, driving up the cost of food, electricity. They've been talking about how there's going to be blackouts. Prepare for blackouts. Prepare for power grid failures. Prepare for this. Prepare for that. Blackouts, electricity and fuel, gas prices. The reason why gas prices is going up, and hurting the quality of life across the West, but especially in Europe, because recently you've been seeing a lot that Russia has been cutting off particular gas deals with particular European Union countries and nations. You see? And that's going to hurt the West, which is going to cause what? This is going to cause, with these sanctions that have been placed on Russia by America, is going to cause what? The 10 horns to hate the whore. These different European Union nations and NATO nations are going to be like, man, messing with this whore, man, we done got burnt. You see? Because they got deals. Hey, these different nations got deals with Russia still. Hell, America still got deals with Russia. You see, but telling them that, look, we're going to slap sanctions on them, that they can't do this and can't do that, it's hurting their pockets, man. So eventually that's going to cause them to hate the whore, man. Let's get that. Revelation 17 and start of verse 15, excuse me. It says, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth, and this whore is talking about America, are peoples, multitudes, and nations and tongues. You see, that's what, when you read up, it talks about the whore that sitteth upon many waters, and that's talking about peoples, nations, multitudes, and tongues. America is known as the great melting pot, right? And America is always in everybody's goddamn business, right? Verse 16, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. See, the 10 horns are these different European Union nations, which now is more than 10. You see? These shall hate the whore. Let's get this word hate. In Revelation 17:16. That word hate is miseo, which means to hate, pursue with hatred, detest, to be hated, or they're going to detest and hate America. They're going to hate the whore. Going to detest this damn place. And you clearly see that people are fed up with the West, man. You see who's in office right now? America looking mighty, mighty weak. You see? And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall burn her with fire, and burn her, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire, which is going into these different NATO and EU nations, shooting thermal, ICBM, nuclear missiles on this place, man. America's own allies. You see? They that have been a confederate thee have deceived thee. America's own allies, man. They're gonna hate this. They're gonna hate the whore and burn her with fire. You see? And this is what you're not gonna hear in your wacky tacky Christian church, man. You're not gonna hear these scriptures being broken down the correct way like this, because your pastors don't want you to. They don't want you to know about these different things. They want you to still be asleep. Okay, let me park my car right quick. Hold on 1 second. Oh boy, here we go. All right, so continuing on. Going back to the article, at least. It says, the European Union has completely lost its political sovereignty. Its political sovereignty. Why did it lose its political sovereignty? Due to what? The West pretty much operating their political sovereignty. Babylon, for lack of better words. And its bureaucratic elites are dancing to someone else's tune, like I just mentioned, accepting whatever they are told from above, causing harm to their own population and their own economy. That's why it mentions that whose look was more stout than their fellows. Stout meaning proud, right? Putin said, EU citizens will pay the price for decisions EU citizens will pay the price for, quote unquote, decisions divorced from reality and taken contrary to common sense, he added, as direct losses from the sanctions alone could exceed 400 billion in a year. A direct loss from sanctions could exceed $400 billion in a year. That's a lot of money, man. From sanctions that were placed on Russia from the West. And when you hurt somebody's pockets, man, that'll make that other person want to put hands on you, take you out the scene. Number 3, energy prices and inflation are self-inflicted. Blaming the high energy prices and inflation in the West on Russia, Putin's price hike, as the White House put it, Putin's price hike. So the reason as to why gas prices are so high and everything is just increasing here in the West is due to Putin's price hike. Like, Putin's the one controlling the economy over here. Then you got these dumbass Americans following after the tune of these different leaders, man. That's why the scripture says that they have 2 horns like a lamb, but they spake as a dragon. You see? It says is a stupidity and designed for people who can't read or write, the Russian president said. He said it's designed for people who can't read or write. Dumbass Americans, man. Hey, what does the scripture say? It's a people that dwelleth without care. Yep, Jeremiah 49:31. Right? It says arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation. That wealthy nation is talking about America, that dwelleth without care. Let's get that word without care. Your without care is batach. Batach, which means securely. See that? Security. See, these people believe that they're secure still. These people believe that they have a sense of security because you can still drive. You can still go to the grocery store. Even though prices are increasing, you can still get gas. You can still get food. Oh, we got the strongest military, this, that, and the third. We're safe. Everything's secure, right? Everything is just, everybody's in security. You see, this is the nation that dwelleth without care, because they feel they're in, this is a false sense of security. You see, because here very soon you're going to go to the grocery store and there ain't going to be no food. You're going to go to the banker and you ain't going to be able to pull your money out. All these things are getting ready to happen. You see, arise, get you up into the wealthy nation that dwelleth without care, saith Yahweh, which have neither gates nor bars, which is a form of security. A gate and a bar is what protects things from coming in and out of your city, right? Which dwelleth alone. You see, it says, and their camels shall be a booty, in the multitude of their cattle a spoil. Pretty much the things that your money maker is going to be spoiled. This place is going to be spoiled, man. And I will scatter into all the winds them that are in the utmost corners, and I will bring their calamity from all sides thereof, saith the Lord. You see, the Lord is going to have these different nations shoot missiles on this place, man. And America is going to be completely spoiled. But this is the nation that dwell without care, and the people dwell without care, because they're drunk off the wine and philosophies of Babylon the Great. They're drunk off the juice, right? Don't blame us. Blame yourselves, Putin said. Don't blame. He's saying, look, don't blame me. Blame y'all. Y'all the ones that y'all cry for this man JB in office. Y'all cry for a king. Look, y'all got him. Now, look, he said, look, don't blame us, but blame yourselves, man. It says the EU, quote unquote, blindly believing in renewable sources and abandoning long-term natural gas contracts with Russia led to the spike in energy prices last year, according to the Russian leader. You see, he said, look, believing in renewable sources, green energy, this, that, everything going green energy, this, that, and the third, and abandoning long-term natural gas contracts with Russia led to the spike in energy prices last year, according to the Russian leader. And it's because what? They're listening to who? They're listening to the whore that rides upon the beast, that's controlling the beast. This is, if you can't see, this is prophecy. Putin is in the spirit. And the Lord put the spirit upon him to say these different things. The scripture says that the answer of the heart and the preparations of the tongue of man come from the Lord, man. Meanwhile, both the U.S. and the EU addressed the thing by printing trillions of dollars and euros, which is going to create hyperinflation. Elder Ariala and the Elder Rachawakwam from London, across the pond, did a beautiful algorithm going into pretty much the bond market, printing trillions of dollars in these corporations, pretty much giving the Fed bonds and the increase in interest rates, which is going to completely create a disaster in a sell-off in the bond market, which is going to crush the economy, man. Just watch that algorithm when you get the chance. Number 4, elite change awaits the West. Policies undertaken by EU and US leaders are exacerbating inequalities and divisions in their societies. We read in Daniel 2. What do we read? It says that the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. It's going to be divided. A kingdom divided against itself shall not stand. The Lord said in Isaiah 19, I shall set the Egyptian against the Egyptian. You see? And that's why you got pro life, the LGBTQIA +1, the leftists, the rightists, pro life, anti life, the June 6th riot, all these different things on these divisions, right? It says not just in terms of welfare, but in terms of values and orientations of various groups, Putin said, which makes a nation weak. Pretty much America's ripe for the picking. Did not the Lord say, put ye in the sickle? Get that. Back in Joel 3. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. When the harvest is ripe, the sickle, you use a sickle to cut down the harvest when it's ripe and ready. It says, come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, which is the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, or the Jehoshaphat, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision, where all hell is going to break loose. Those who get sent over there to the Middle East ain't going to come back. And in the midst of World War III, Yahweh Shai is going to return. And all these different nations are going to gather themselves, or even Russia is going to gather themselves together with particular the American military, the French military, NATO nations, EU nations, China. All these different nations and militaries are going to gather themselves together to try to battle against the Lord when he returns, and they're going to be completely smoked, according to prophecy. Okay? 1 second. Hey. One moment, Slovakia. All right. Going back to the article. It says, such a detachment from reality and from the demands of society will inevitably lead to a surge of populism and the growth of radical movements, to serious social and economic changes, to degradation, and in the near future to a change of elites, the Russian leader said, because America is really not being controlled and ran by the president of the United States. America is nothing more than just a corporation, okay, that's being used, all right, to implement a particular agenda. Okay, that's all that America is being used for. JB and Trump and all these different guys, they're nothing more than just puppets being told what to do. JB was nothing more, was placed in office for one reason, and one reason only. You see, to pretty much show forth that the wisdom of Timon is failing, and that America and Babylon is pretty much done. You see, number 5, it says, if there's a famine, which there will be, it won't be Russia's fault. U.S. and EU sanctions against Russia, in particular fertilizer and grain exports, which a lot of our fertilizers and grains that we have come from the Ukraine and come from Russia, like, for example, wheat, cotton, all these major things that are needed. That's why there's a tampon shortage. I did a lesson on that on Friday, right? It says, Thursday, are one of the reasons for growing global food insecurity, Putin pointed out. If there's a famine in the world's poorest countries, this will be entirely on the conscience of the U.S. administration and the European bureaucracy. You see that? He said, look, and that's true. All these different sanctions that they're slapping on, which is all set up, and it's all created at the end of the day for a purpose. We got to keep saying that. It's biblical prophecy taking place, though. See, the spike in diesel gas. What needs diesel? Trucks that move goods and services from one place to another, boats, trains, tractors, farming equipment. They need diesel gas to move and operate. And when there's a diesel gas spike or a diesel gas increase, that's people. It's gonna be less people driving trucks and moving these different things and vehicles and things of that nature from one place to another, which is going to cause a famine. If there is a famine in the world's poorest country, I just read that. Troubles with the food supply have arisen over the past several years, not months. It says not months, due to the short-sighted actions of those who are accustomed to solving their problems at someone else's expense, distorting the trade flows by printing money in a sort of predatory colonial policy, Putin said. Russia is ready to send food to Africa and the Middle East, where the threat of famine is most acute, but faces logistical, financial, transport obstacles imposed by the West, he said. See? Which is going to cause these different nations to what? Be in league with Russia. Libya, and all these different nations that tells you in Ezekiel 38. Number 6, let's see how much more we got. We'll finish it out because I got to get ready to go. Reasons for the Ukraine conflict. Russia sent troops into Ukraine in February because the West refused to abide by its obligations, and it was simply impossible to reach any new agreements with them, Putin said. Pretty much they were unreasonable. And what's going on is the fact that Ukraine was originally a part of the USSR. You see? But over time, after the USSR split, pretty much was dissolved in a sense, you had these different nations kind of split off. So what America's trying to do is trying to get Ukraine to become a NATO ally, so that America could pretty much be in the back door of Russia and pretty much be in their backyard. Which Russia like, hell no, we ain't having that, right? It says, the decision was forced but necessary, as Russia had every right as a sovereign country to defend its security and protect its citizens and residents of Donbass from genocide by the Kiev regime and neo-Nazis who received the full protection of the West. See, they received the full protection of the West. The West spent years turning Ukraine into an anti-Russia state and pumping it with weapons and military advisors, Putin said, pointing out they, quote unquote, did not give a damn about Ukraine's economy or the lives of its people. So he's like, man, look, they don't give a goddamn about the lives of the Ukrainian people. You got all these Ukrainian flags in the road and pray for Ukraine, all this propaganda. You drive down the damn highway, feel like you in Ukraine. All these Ukrainian flags in America. All sending billions of dollars every month to Ukraine when America got its own issues going on, man. It says, but spared no expense to create a NATO foothold, like I just mentioned, in the East, directed against Russia to cultivate aggression, hatred, and Russophobia. All the objectives in the special military operation will be unconditionally achieved, Putin said. See, he's going to achieve the mission because he knows, look, if America gets involved, the first bullet shot from an American troop over to Russia, World War III is going to be commenced. But it all biblical prophecy has to play out. It's not going to happen until the MOTB gets pushed, which we're right around the corner for that. See, and just looking at this is pretty much it. So yeah, I just wanted to read this article because when you read it, you see it's prophecy, man, and we're in the time of biblical prophecy taking place, man. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem HaKadosh, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Shalom.